Hello, my name is Nathan Casey, and I'm here to talk about something very important to me. But before I start doing that, this is Cody Marcotte, and this is Samantha Madero Craven. They're here to listen to me speak about this topic. So, sports is a huge deal to me. I was very competitive, and I found that I was really close to everybody I loved when I got to play. It was something very engaging, and I found that it was just something that kept me going. And as somebody who's competed in team sports, individual sports, and was a personal trainer in a Marine, I can find that everyone deserves to feel that way. Everyone deserves to feel like they have camaraderie and have successes. So, what we're going to talk about is the controversy of trans people in sports. What causes this controversy and what we can do about it. Now, how did this start? You would say it would start with just the trans people, but actually, it started with women. Women dared to push Boston Marathon. Catherine Schweitzer was the first woman to run a Boston Marathon. They had Wynn try to run to take her out, but she refused and she finished the marathon. Because of this, men kept saying that they can't compete, they can't compete, but they proved that they could. So they created women's categories a little earlier than the Boston Marathon, but women's categories were created, and some sports were even mixed. But it created this stigma of women and men, right? So what does that mean for trans people? Trans people have been around for decades. However, they were allowed to compete in the 90s. The Olympic Committee said, "Hey, you guys can compete. Everything is good. You just have to take these sex-based tests to make sure you are good to compete." And they found that these sex-based tests were actually humiliating and degrading, and they didn't actually prove anything. So they were banned in 2000, in the early 2000s. They found it also wasted a lot of money. That being said, um, they found that the ACT survey of the Australian government in 2014 found that trans people actually benefited from sports. They had improved social skills, peer relationships, camaraderie. It was something that was really good for their health, and nobody really, nobody got in. No one was interrupted for these relationships. But if we hadn't noticed, this growing rhetoric is on the rise of trans people shouldn't be in sports, right? So 2015, the question started. You notice the question was starting to be raised around that time. And it's because it was more socially acceptable to be trans. Somebody who's out as a trans person is going to be in, they're just going to be in the public light, right? And CBS actually ran an article about 25 transgender athletes that you should know. And it was in 2022 because not because they were winning, but because they were just there. They were on public social media. They were everywhere. But not really, none of them were really winning. They were just there to say, "Hey, we deserve to be here." Right? Now, the question is, don't trans women have an advantage? Do they have an advantage? The latest study from the IOC funded International Olympic Committee said found in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that trans women actually have lower VO2 max, lower cardiovascular capacity, and lower muscle mass than cisgender women. They also found that they had less lower body strength than cisgender women. And that on top of that, their body composition was 30% more fat and less muscle. So trans women were already severely at a disadvantage compared to their cisgender women counterparts, despite the fact they went through male puberty first. And then 2026 meta-analysis found that same thing. There was no inherent advantage for trans women to compete. And then somebody will ask, what about the winners? Well, only three winners that have been recorded are two track girls in a high school, children, and a trans woman in college, winning one swimming race. She didn't win the competition. There was no blowouts. It was just they happened to be there, they happened to win, and they happened to do well. And then it kind of leads into that everyone's different. Women's bodies are different. Some women are small and petite, some are large and tall. And it's you can't really judge them based off of how they look because women are different. They're not just one type of thing. This all leads into the discrimination factor. This leads to dangerous discrimination. So if you're just basing it off of your feelings, this is when you're going to make decisions based off of, excuse me, this is going to base it off of the transgender discrimination factor. So they found that it's not just about the science and about the hormones. It's about also the camaraderie and about the people. So it's more than just science. It's about being able to accept people as they are. The Law and Sexuality Journal in 2022 found it was actually causing severe harm. It wasn't actually doing anything good. It wasn't saving cisgender women. And because of that, you could find that trans children are becoming targets. You'll see transgender children becoming targets all the time. You'll find that the violence continuum is always getting worse because if you push violent rhetoric, it becomes violent actions, and that's just been proven in many psychology continuums. So what can we do about this? What can we do? We have the people have always said that we should have our own category. That sounds great on paper, but there's not enough of them. The NCAA found that only 0.002% of their athletes are trans. So you try to get everybody in, like, just say track and field, there's going to be maybe one or two of them. So what kind of category is that? That's not competition, that's just discrimination. That's just pushing them as a one person in a situation. And the separate but equals never really worked. If we look at past civil rights movements, separate but equal is just kind of another way to other somebody instead of accept them into what's going on. They deserve overall to be in their identified category that they prefer. What's really happening is fear and rumors don't equal facts here. They are losing more often. Trans people are winning much less, and they're at a disadvantage, even at a physical level. And so what we need to do is we need to beat the rumors and just allow them to compete. If they're truly blowing out the water and they're truly winning, you will start seeing a trend of that. But we haven't seen it for decades. They found that also maybe cisgender women should have a say. The Archives of Sexual Behavior found that cis women tend to be more accepting than cisgender men. And they found that trans men become more hostile because of personality, politics, and feelings of disgust versus actual facts. So they're doing it based off their feelings, not because they actually have data. That being said, women's sports do deserve to be protected, but not from trans people. The reality is, men overshadow the accomplishments of the women, and they don't allow women to compete when they want to. They pay an advertisement is not equal at all. It's not even the same. And they see men almost like a monolith. And because of that, trans women are automatically assigned the monolith, even though they're not, they're completely at a disadvantage. So everything is based off of assumptions and feelings versus what's actually going on. And it brings, so altogether, sports bring us together. So why wouldn't we want this? Well, we should, because it allows us to fight for equality. It allows us to have our sports representation as a whole, as a society. Letting trans people compete isn't harming anybody. And what we found is that participating in sports have helped people overall. And the solution is they should just be allowed to compete. They should be. And that being said, they should be allowed to compete in their identified sport. For me, as somebody who used to compete in lifting and people would watch me lift, I didn't really care about winning. Nobody really cared about first place. You got first place, that's great. But people were cheering for you and hugging you, even if you failed, because they're so proud of you for trying. And everyone deserves that. Even if you don't like sports, everyone deserves to have that kind of teamwork and camaraderie. And that is why everyone deserves a place in sports. Everyone should be able to play in the category they serve in.